I'm Alison Whitmire, the president of Learning in Action. I forget who I am sometimes. And I'm super happy to be with you today and to have you here joining us for our Podinar on what they don't teach you in coaching school, or at least most coaching schools, exploring the gap between coach training and market demand. And I'm super excited to be joined here with our special guest, Coach Dave Buck, the CEO of CoachVille. And I'll be introducing Dave and the rest of our guests in just a moment. So what's a Podinar? If you've never heard the Podinar and you're wondering what the heck is it, it's because we made it up. It's a mashup between the best parts of a podcast, which is interview style, and a webinar, which is interactive style. So we hope to be super interactive with you today, as well as have a great conversation between Dave and I. So what's our intention for this Podinar? It really is to encourage you to bring a more experiential element to your coaching, and Dave will talk much more about that today. It's to provide you some concrete ideas of what you can do to be better meeting market demand and build your business. It's to give you permission to bring more of you to your coaching and to empower you to move beyond what you were taught in coaching school and to live and coach more fully into your truest essence as a coach. That's our hope for today. That's our goal. So we'd love to interact with you. Yay! We'd love to interact with you. Ask a question by typing your question into the Q&A box. And Dave and I will be seeing that, and Chris is going to help us moderate it. If you want to chat with everybody, we'd love for you if you just want to kind of chat with your neighbor, just make little comments on anything and everything. That's awesome. You can chat whatever you'd like in the chat box. Be sure and select where it says all panelists and attendees. That's not the default option. That way then everybody can see your chat, not just Dave and I. And then we'd love for you to participate in polls too. We'll be doing some polling throughout just so we get to know you a little bit better. And I'd love to introduce the rest of the team. We have on screen now Corey Weichel, Learning in Action's Director of Training. Hey, Corey.
Woo! Hey, y'all. Good to see you.
So Corey's going to be behind the scenes answering questions if they come up. We don't expect they will, but if questions come up about training or anything about learning in action, Corey's going to be there. And we're also joined by Chris Hardy, our moderator. Woo! Our moderator and Director of Brand, Community, and Customer Service for Learning in Action. So she's going to be helping us navigate the chat box and the Q&A box. So Dave and I can be having an interactive, present conversation and not focused on the chat box and the Q&A box. Then we'll cut to Chris every now and then to see what you all are talking about. So
sweet. Thank
you, Chris. See you later.
All right.
Okay.
We're counting on you back there.
Yeah, that's totally true. So what can you expect from today? So many of you asked questions when you registered, and we love that. Thank you so much, because it helps us shape the Podinar and get a sense for like what's really on your mind. So we'll get to as many of those questions as possible. We may not get to everything, and the earlier you ask your question, the better. If you have to step out, the Podinar is going to be recorded. If Dave and I talk about something really interesting, hopefully we do.
Yes.
and that we have resources. We'll be providing you the recording and any resources in an email we'll send you, everyone who's registered, by Monday. Okay, so with that, let's launch our first poll so we get to know you a little bit. If you have, what, if any, coaching credential have you attained? And if you've got one that's not an ICF coaching credential, that's cool. You can just put it in the chat box what that other coaching credential is. So we'll wait in that. We'll check in on that poll result in just a moment.
All right. We want to see who's here.
That's right. We want to see what our audience is. So Dave, I'm so excited
Yes.
to be with you today. And
I'm
you're
excited to be with you, Allison. You're so awesome.
well, thank you. You're so kind.
It's true.
I love it. So I was so happy to have met you at Camp Maverick. You were
Yes.
like one of the few keepers that I really, really stayed in touch with. I'm so excited.
Likewise, you were the same for me. Yeah. So we're both keepers. That's good.
At least for each other, right?
Yeah, for each other. That's what matters the most.
So let me do a proper introduction. Dave is MBA and an MCC, Master Certified Coach. He's the CEO of CoachVille, the original global online community for coaches with over 35,000 members. It's amazing, Dave.
A lot of people. A lot of coaches in the world.
Yeah, thank goodness, right? World needs it. Creator of the Play Life Method, 12 provocative secrets that will transform the way you pursue your dreams.
Nice.
And CEO was named the Seth Godin's 100 Purple Cow Companies, and I can't wait to hear what that even means.
What is that, a purple cow?
What the heck is a purple cow company? So I'm just going to enter polling and see what our results say. So let's see who's on the, okay, share the results. Okay, cool. Wow, look at all those PCCs we've got.
Awesome. Love that.
Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome, Great. Tribe.
Yeah, news and PCCs. Yeah, and others. Yeah, welcome. So Dave, it's so awesome to be with you.
We have a lot to talk about.
We do. So how about we talk about the topic? Like, so yeah. What is, just for fun, you and I can go on all kinds of it.
Let's talk about the topic. Yes.
So what's your take on the gap between what the market is asking for from us coaches,
sure,
and how most coach training schools are preparing us to coach?
Yeah, it's a big question, and I want to be I want to be upfront about the idea that I'm super passionate about this, and I mean mega passionate. So and also respectful, because I think all the coach training programs, and there's thousands of them, they all are doing what they're doing with a big heart and with good intent, right? So that's for sure. And at the same time, I think there's some gaps between what people are learning, with some perceptions about what coaching is and the best way to do it, and what I perceive coaching is and the best way of doing it. And so really it's just about pointing out those gaps. And I think it's important, it's like every profession needs some people that are like, hey, wait a minute, we could be doing this better, right? So sometimes that doesn't make you popular, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's also, it's essential for the growth of any field that there's folks that are like, and what I do, and what I feel I'm doing is honoring the original intent. Okay, so when the ICF became a thing in 1997, I joined that day. Okay, so I'm what they call an original member, right? I was member number 72.
Holy cow.
Of the ICF. I still remember my little number, like 000000072. And I was really impressed by that. I was like, yeah, they're thinking big. We're going to have 1 million coaches. Like, yeah. And I'm number 72. So there's that. And then we had our first ever ICF conference back in 1997 in a musty, dusty ballroom in a hotel in Houston, Texas. And there was about 100 of us sitting there, and Cheryl Richardson was our first elected president, and she was up there. We were having all these amazing conversations, okay? And we were so passionate, and we had this, I still can remember sitting there and just like my skin was buzzing the whole weekend, and I was like, yeah. And we had this vision from Thomas Leonard, who was the founder of life coaching as a profession, who passed away in 2003. But we had this vision from him. And his vision was life coaching is going to become the most profound form of human relating ever invented. And so back in 1997, when we were all sitting there, we were like, life coaching is going to be the best thing ever. And we're going to change people's lives and it's going to be amazing. And so what were we going to do? Like, what was coaching going to be? So we were having all these conversations. And so first you got to understand that what was the purpose of coaching as we were talking about it in 1997. And in the 90s, the big thing was success, right? That was like the topic. Everyone was like, how do you become a success? Like success on your own terms. That was what coaches were going to do. Life coaches were going to help everyone all around the world become a success on their own terms, right? So that was the big idea. And how were we going to do that? How were we going to help any human being become a success on their own terms? And basically the answer was everything. We're going to do everything. We're going to be the best listeners. We're going to be the best sharers of ideas. We're going to share strategies and mindsets and frameworks and models. And we're going to ask amazing questions and we're going to teach amazing skills and strategies. We're going to give everything we've got for our players and clients to be successful. And that was what was making us all so excited, is because we've always wanted to find a platform to give everything, right? Like as human beings, we live these crazy lives and we have all these traumas and, successes and failures and disasters. And we have all this stuff in our life. We accumulate all these experiences and wisdom. And all we want to do is find a way to share all of that to benefit another human being. That's all we want to do. Like, that's all we want to do. And so when we invented coaching as a profession in 1997, that was what coaching was.
Wow.
And on top of that, one other thing, because Thomas Leonard was huge on this idea that humans are constantly evolving, and that as a coaching field, we're going to be the profession that not only keeps up with human evolution and keeps evolving as a profession, but we're going to cause evolution. We're going to be the catalyst of humanity becoming the best that humanity can ever be. So when I think about what does it mean to be a life coach, I'm with that vision. Like, that's the ICF I joined. Okay. Yeah. So the ICF is not that today.
Yeah.
It has gone off the track to some pretty large degree. But I joined the ICF when that was the vision. And so that's the ICF I'm a part of. Okay. Cool. I'm still a member. I'm an MCC. I honor the ICF, but I'm the voice of saying, hey, we started this thing with a big ass vision, and I want us to stay true to that. And I feel like a lot of coaches around the world are starting to feel the same way that I'm feeling. Wow.
I just love the passion that you've got around that. It just comes through. And I have this image of like the coach version of just leaving it all on the field.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just like leaving it all on the field.
Put it all out there, skillfully, right? So that's the thing. It's like when you have a whole life of experiences and wisdom, and people who get into coaching are huge personal growth advocates, and we read every book that ever comes out, and we, go to every seminar, and we do all this growth, but we always do it with this amazing, hugely awesome concept called I learn from myself, and then I can share it with all my clients. Like, how awesome is that? Yes. Right? It's like learn, share. It's the best life ever invented.
Yeah.
So like, that's the vision of coaching. And so like, that's why we do it. Like, that's why you become a coach. So so what I'm advocating for always, and I speak to the powers that be at the ICF on a regular basis. I'm like, come on, guys, like what we're doing right here, this was not the intent. Like, we got to find a way to certify the ability to give everything in a skillful way rather than certifying this little tiny box. Like, yes, of course, it's so awesome to be great at asking great questions and listening. That is awesome. 100% that's awesome. But that's a little tiny piece of what it means to be a great coach. So we can't just certify this one little piece and then say, well, the rest of it, that's not coaching. Only coaching is this little piece. That's silly.
Right.
That's not the intent.
So how would you say, you said before that, the coach, that ICF has diverged from this original really
Sure.
intent. And again, none of us are hating on the ICF. We love the ICF. So
yeah.
So just want to make that really clear. And I think we have, but just say it one more time. How would you say the ICF has begun to diverge from this bigger?
It's a long story. It's a tale of politics.
Well, I don't mean like why, how, but like in what ways?
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, the thing is that the over time in the first couple of years after the ICF, when the ICF was first created, the group that uses a model called coactive was not a part of the ICF. They had their own thing. And then there was this idea that, well, the coactive group and the ICF should join forces. So they did, a couple years in, and the coactive group was extremely zealous about their model. And they, I won't get into the gory details because it's gory. And there was a lot of tears shed in the early days of coaching when this merger happened. And so over time, the ICF has leaned into this coactive framework that coaches only ask questions and people have all their own answers. That model became like the prevalent model. And all of us that came in with the model called coaches give everything they've got kind of got pushed over to the side. And that's it's unfortunate, but that's what it is now. But the ICF is a collective. And I feel like at some day in the future, we'll get the collective back around towards the view that coaches give everything, because I think that's the true nature of being a coach.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So thank you for that background. And so when you think about the question, so what's the market demanding?
Sure.
That's different than what we're being prepared to do.
Yes.
What comes up for you?
Yeah. Now this is the big point, right? Because now we're talking about not only this vision of what coaching was 20 years ago, but who are human beings becoming and what do we need to provide as coaches for this new human, right? This 21st century human that's born in the connected age rather than what we all grew up in, which was the industrial age. Mm-hmm. And, when you look at the coaching that sort of emerged from the 90s, it's sort of industrial, like you only do this and you don't do that. And that was a very industrial model. Like there's a right way, there's a wrong way, do it right, don't do it wrong. But this is the connected age. It's a totally new world. And so as humans are evolving, the original vision of coaching was, hey, as humans evolve, we're going to evolve with it. So when I look at humanity and the evolution of humanity, I call it this way. I say it's life is performance art. Life is performance art. And this is a fascinating view of the world. When we think of what does it mean to be a performing artist? We've always had performing artists as humans, the storytellers, the actors, the singers, the dancers. We've always had performing artists in our human culture. And now everyone is living as a performing artist. What is a performing artist? A performing artist is a person who feels that they have a point of view that is important to share with others, that they have skills that they want to share with others, and that they have a vulnerability of their life experience that they want to share, whether it's through dancing, singing, telling stories, acting. athletics. These are all performance arts. And when you look at our social media platforms, that's what everyone is doing. Like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever social media platform you look at, what are human beings doing? They have a point of view. They have their life experience. They want to share it. They hope to contribute to their friends and their tribe. They want to add value. They're once in a while revealing their vulnerability. It's like human beings want to live a performance art life. Our life is art. Our life is not do your job and then retire. Like, that's not the life humans are envisioning for themselves. They don't want to work in a company for 50 years and get the gold watch and retire to a golf course. We want to live. We want to experience. We want to share. So it's a totally new life. So this is awesome for coaches, because as more human beings start to wake up to, hey, I want to live, I want to share, I want to contribute, then a performance life, like I want to perform, not industrial performance, not like, oh, I could make 65 widgets in an hour. I'm high performer. I make 67 widgets. Not that industrial performance. I'm talking performance art performance. I want to share my life story. I want to give. I want to contribute. And I'm willing to be vulnerable, to go in front of others and share. Mm-hmm. That's the life that more and more people are starting to move into. So when you start living a performer life, you desperately need someone, a coach, who can observe your performances and help you perform better. Because anyone who's performing has a drive, like, hey, I want to be good at this. I want to share in a valuable way. I want to impact more people. I want to get better at what I'm doing and what I'm sharing. And that's what coaching is. Coaching is one human being guiding another human being in pursuit of getting better at something, whether it's getting better at basketball, getting better at business, getting better at dancing. To get better at something, you need a human being to watch you and share with you what they're seeing and help you figure out how you can do it better. That's what coaching is. It's a relationship in pursuit of playing better. That's the way I describe it. You can call it getting better. I say playing better because I love this idea that humans are born to play. But whatever way you think of it, whether it's playing better, doing better, getting better, it's always a pursuit of a vision of maximizing your contribution in the world. That's what every person who has a coach wants to do, whether it's playing basketball or playing business or leadership. So as coaches, this is so awesome for us, because as more humans get into a performance mindset, hey, I want to get better, almost everyone knows that if you want to get better at something, you have a coach. So we're approaching a time on the earth where it will be possible that every human being wants a coach. Mm-hmm. That is coming. And so we have to get ready to coach in a way that these performers want to be coached.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm wanting to share with people about. How do you coach someone who's living an artful performance life?
Yeah.
That's the vision that I'm speaking about.
Yeah. It's so bold and so exciting. I sense from what you're saying, like this transition from the idea of, coaching being about how people become successful in their own terms, to like coaching being more about helping people become fully expressed in who they are.
100% yes, you nailed it.
Yeah, whatever that means for them.
Yes, to them, yes.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Dave, we've been talking this far around in terms of life coaching. So how does this apply to the coach who's working in middle management, corporate America,
the world of Dilbert?
Yes.
Alison, I can only pray that we can get it in there. That's my prayer for all the humans that live that life. I can only just wish and pray and push and do everything in my power to get this framework into that world, because I am certain of one thing. Every human being on this earth was born to play life. We are born players. And this notion of living in a little box, going and sitting in a box every day, like, I know that's how our economy is currently set up for a lot of people. So that is true. But that was a human invention. That wasn't natural. Like, it was not natural for human beings to go sit in a box every day. But that's our current human invention. So, but I'm like, hey, if we invented sitting in a box every day, we can invent some better way to live a fully expressed life. Okay. I'm certain we can invent that. And so I believe that as coaches, whether you're coaching in the corporate space or the entrepreneurial space or health or whatever, wherever you're coaching, you start with the premise that there's a human being sitting there that has a deep desire to express themselves fully and contribute to the world. And so my goal is, whatever their confines are, and that can be tough in a cubicle, but whatever their confines are, there is a way that they can start to live a performance, an artful performance life. Every human being can do that. And so I'm like, every coach, we know that's in every human being. So let's get in there and let's do it.
Yeah. I'm appreciating the context you created around this idea of, like, that there are structures, companies that are still hanging on to this industrial age where like people are widgets, and all widgets need to be exactly alike for the industry to function properly.
That's right.
Everyone needs to be alike. There's not really like room for everyone to be unique. And what I get and frankly appreciate, like, the millennial generation to do is, like, they're not having that.
No.
That
game is over. That game is over.
Yeah, and I'm not a millennial expert. And my experience is they want to show up and be themselves and live life out loud, and have a voice, and which is awesome, right?
That's how I know I'm right. Right? It's like I'm not just sitting here going, I'm right because I say so. I'm just looking at the world. These human beings coming onto the earth in the last 20 years, they're not having it.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then it's creeping up, like more and more people are like, wait, why are we having it? Let's wake up. I'm not here to work as a widget my whole life. And even if my economics are sort of pushing me in that direction, I want to find some way to live an artful performance life. And I believe every human being has that potential. And so as coaches, we got to find that. And we got to find a way to help people be successful in their widget world, if that's where they live, but also be the artful, creative human that they were born to be.
So I'd like to ask our audience this question, and then we'll keep talking while they answer. And answer this in the chat box, audience, if you will. What, if anything, are you finding the market is asking from you, coaches, that you weren't prepared for by your coaching program?
Yeah, that's a great question.
That in the chat box. So I'll tell you, I'm curious. You have a coach training school, so it's different. But I'll tell you what my experiences have been.
Sure, yeah.
Both old and new. So when I was a newbie coach, and this is 15 years ago, I had a client, and I just liked him so much. He was, this is when I was in Seattle. I was the CEO of a local company, and what he wanted was not for me to show up and like ask him questions. He wanted to be trained.
Yeah.
Like he's like, okay, what am I? He'd show up for his coaching session. He's like, what am I going to learn this month?
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do in this session? And
yes. And you were like, oh crap.
I so wanted to.
Yes.
I mean, I so want, and It's probably why I bought a training company 10 years later.
Yeah, like, screw it. I'm going to do it this way.
I'm just going to buy it if I can't do it. And it's so interesting because I feel like I love coaching, and I have not felt fully expressed as a coach.
Sure.
Because I thought I couldn't train, I couldn't have little modules, I couldn't teach,
Sure.
I couldn't advise. So anyway, what's coming up for you about that?
Well, that's everything you're saying is exactly the point. That's what you were trained in is not what coaching is. The ability to ask great questions and be fully present and listen is essential. It's an essential core skill set, but it's not the definition of coaching. It's a little tiny piece. I can tell you this. When Thomas Leonard invented life coaching, he was endlessly coming up with things that we could teach our clients. Endlessly. Here's 15 tangible objectives you can share with your clients. Here's 15 frameworks for life you can teach your clients. Here's 50 models for success you can teach your clients. Because people are desperate to learn. They want to grow, but they want it personalized. They don't want generic. Anybody can watch and learn anything anywhere, but they want someone who can personalize the learning for them, their situation, their vision, their strengths. And coaching, I think a more accurate definition is personalized learning. That's what, if you really want to get it down to its bare bones, that's what coaching is. It's personalized learning. And that's what people are craving, because the world is covered in information. Anybody can find information about anything anywhere. What we're all craving is the experience of having a personal connection, having someone who can tailor the learning for us and then can help us get better. Like, help me as a person get better at expressing myself, not with generic, not with a video, but with personally, I'm watching you. People are yearning to be seen, craving to be seen. So as a coach, you're an observer. You watch and then, hey, this is what I'm observing. Here's some feedback. Here's some suggestions how you can do this a little better. Here's an idea you might want to try. So coaching is like all about this trusted connection with permission to share. You're not telling you have to do it this way. It's not controlling. It's permission to co-create. Mm-hmm. That's what the coaching relationship was always meant to be. So that's the first level of what you're talking about, the learning angle. But when we talk about learning, it's important to realize that there's many kinds of learning. But the one kind of way of talking about learning in the distinction is there's learning information and knowledge, stuff that you kind of store in your brain. But then there's learning as capability, as becoming, as reinventing yourself, as the next best version of yourself. There's the learning to become a more powerful, more confident, more capable person. There's that learning, okay? And that's the learning that people are craving. Because the informational learning, especially from the industrial age, we've all had our fill of that. And it's not fulfilling. It's filling, but not fulfilling. What people are craving is becoming, expressing, and that. So how do you coach that? That's the question. Right. And the way you coach that is what I call transformational play. What I mean by transformational play, it's actually it's not a new idea at all. So I don't want to claim that I'm inventing it. I'm just calling it this thing, transformational play. But as a coach, let's say I'm coaching you. You're an executive in a corporate cubicle, and you want to become more empathetic. Okay? Like, that's your goal. Like, that's who you want to become. Like, hey, I'm this. I'm good at what I do, but I've been told or I've heard or I have this vision like, oh, I wonder if I could become more empathetic as a leader. That might be good. And I'm just making this up as an example. You could say, I want to become more confident or more creative or whatever. Like, there's always a becoming. Every human being has a yearning to become something. We have dreams in our hearts. We want to become the next best version of ourselves. So as a coach, how do you help someone become something? Okay, this is the fundamental question of coaching, right? A human being wants to become the next version of themselves. How, as a coach, do I facilitate that becoming? So the way I describe this is you do it through play.
Mm-hmm.
So you could ask the person, well, what does a more empathetic leader look like to you? That's a good question. Then they might share with you that. In an older model of coaching, you'd say, okay, great. Go ahead and do that.
Let me know how it goes.
Yeah, let me know how that goes. But as a new coach, as a coach for this new age, we would say, let's play with it. Okay? I'll be your employee, John. Remember John last week? He's kind of screwed up this thing and you needed to tell him, but you didn't know how, and you didn't know how to be empathetic and telling him how he needed to improve. I'll be John. I'll come into your office and you tell me what you need to tell me. So then we set up this role play. I say, hey, boss, how's it going? And then the person I'm coaching starts trying to tell me, and they're fumbling and they're stumbling. And I'm like, okay, time out. As the coach, how did that feel? Like, oh, I'm not so good. It's like, okay, then I'm coaching you. I'm like, all right, now imagine you're this amazing empathetic person the way you described to me before. Like, get this in your mind, feel it in your body. Like, you go through this whole experience of helping them embody their vision. It's a mind, it's body. You get them in there. And then you say, okay, let's try it again. Hi, boss. How's it going? Sorry, I screwed up last week. And then you start talking to me and it's amazing. It's like you start inventing yourself as this empathetic person. You've embodied it. You're practicing it. Then I can call time out and I can say, okay, how did that feel? And you're like, whoa, that felt good. I feel it. It's like, okay, great. Let's try it again, and then I come in again and we talk some more. And then, so as a coach, I'm playing with my client. I'm not just talking with them. I'm playing with them. Yeah. And by playing with them, they get the opportunity to practice being this new version of themselves. And then by practicing being this version, they have the confidence to bring it into their real world.
Yeah, right. So I want to make sure we get to our audience. And before we do, I'll just say one thing just to underscore what you were saying. I've gone through David Drake's narrative coaching program now, which is awesome. And he also strongly emphasizes what he calls serious play.
Yeah, serious play.
And I felt so empowered when he said, some kind of call, he said, I know what happens, coaches, when you give your clients homework. They don't do it. No. I know what happens. They don't do it. You've got, the becoming, he didn't say it this way, the becoming has to happen in the coaching session. But
yes.
It has to happen in the coaching session. It's not going to happen later.
No. You can't become a new version of yourself out in the scary world. You need a human being with you to practice, which is what performing art coaches have done from the beginning of time. Like, okay, sing it for me. Sing it again. Try it this way. Use this part of your voice, whatever. And then they sing it for the coach 10 times. Okay, now go and sing it for your audience.
Right. Okay. So Chris, let's come on and let us know what we're hearing from our audience and what questions we have.
Yeah, wow, this is great stuff. We have a couple of questions and we have lots of great comments in chat. So I'll give to you first the two questions that have come in, and from there with chat if you'd like. So from Penny McKay, we have, can you also relate your philosophy to health coaching?
Sure.
ALTH, health coaching. Is it to maximize a person's health and energy, etc., so they can achieve their full potential? So that's question one.
Yeah, let's go ahead and answer that question.
Okay, sure. Well, one thing about coaching and life coaching that is important is that it's always based on what does the player want to become. Okay, so if it's maximizing their energy and health so they can have full expression, if that's what their vision is, then yes, that's what it is. Okay. Now, it's an interesting thing when you think about, there's some things that we coach people on that are a little more challenging to role play with. Okay. But so for example, if you're coaching any kind of a manager, leader, entrepreneur, any of those things, all of those things are 100% based on conversations. Like that's how you play. You play by talking with people. So those are 100% awesomely coachable with playing together in conversation, because they're going to have conversations. You can practice conversations. With health, you might think, oh, it's just about sitting there and making the right food choice. And there's a part of that. So there's a way you can play with someone and get into their experience of life as they're making a choice and kind of play with them in their moments of choice. So there's a way of doing that. But also, most people, when they pursue anything, the most important thing that will determine their success is the people around them. Mm-hmm. So if you want to become more healthy and you're like, okay, I only want to eat like these kinds of foods, etc., but you have children, you have partner, and they want crappy food, and they get mad at you for not bringing in the crappy food. And you're like, no, I can't have crappy food around me anymore. Sorry, this is the new deal. Well, then you can help them practice talking with their family, talking with their friends. No, I'm not going out drinking on Friday. Let's go to the green juice bar, right? Like, how do you help a person role play talking to their best friend to say, I know we've been going to a bar every Friday for 20 years. I actually want to go to the green juice bar. What do you think? Yeah. Let's both turn a new corner. Like, that's a conversation you can practice and practice until the person can deliver it with real value and
and you know, well, what I'll add to that too is like, so I've done walking coaching sessions. I've done running coaching sessions. I've done climbing coaching sessions. I've done Tough Mudders with clients. I've done triathlons with clients.
You are awesome, Alison. I love you so much.
Right. And so in addition to like how they have those conversations, we can actually be out there doing that stuff with anything. I remember I had a client who was doing a half Ironman, and we wanted to talk about like the mental game around the half Ironman, and we did a 10-mile run together. And over those 10 miles, we talked all about his half Ironman, who he was going to be, how he was going to feel, the stroke he was going to have, the cycle, what his plan was going to be.
Sure. Yeah, that's real coaching. You jump in and play. I mean, I was a soccer coach at a top college for 14 years, and I was assistant coach. The head coach was this fellow, Manny Shellshite, who wrote the original soccer coach training program in America. He's like the grand guru of soccer coaching in America. So it's like this amazing life I've had with these amazing, historical coaches that I've been their assistants for a long time. But anyway, Coach Manny would always say, if you want to help someone play better, the first thing you have to do is jump in and play with them. Be with them. And think about this, like, Plato, one of the most essential philosophers of the Western civilization, said this very thing, like however many thousand years ago. He said, I learn more about a person in a day of play than in a year of conversation. So this is not a new idea, playing with someone to learn about them, see them, and then be able to guide them toward their vision. Mm-hmm. So now here's the thing though, okay? Because there's always a reason that a thing becomes the way it is. Why was it so convenient to paint coaching in this little corner of only asking questions, only listening, never sharing? Why was that so convenient? Why did people latch on to that? Because it's safe. It's so safe. You can never make a mistake. You don't have to reveal yourself in any way. You never have to be vulnerable. You never have to do anything risky. You just keep asking questions, keep listening. Yes, that's a good skill to have, but there's no vulnerability. no risk, no nothing. And that's why people like it, because people are sometimes drawn to the super safe version. The version that I'm talking about, jump in and play, be their employee, John, you can screw that up royally. You can embarrass the heck out of yourself. And that's the vulnerability that it takes to be a great coach in the connected age. We can't hide behind this veil anymore and think people are going to be satisfied. That was an industrial idea, hiding behind veils. In the connected age, this is full on. Be yourself, reveal yourself, express yourself. So as coaches, we need to ramp up our vulnerability game and be willing to share our vulnerable selves through our own story, but also in just playing these roles. I don't know how to be your employee, John. I don't know. But I trust that if I go fully in and I'm fully present, I trust my connection to the universe, I trust my intuition, and all of a sudden I'm saying, John, I'm being John. I'm acting like John. I'm creating a version of John for my client to practice with. And then they get to practice their new selves with me. And then magical things happen.
Cool. Okay. So I'm reading Cheryl's comment. Cheryl says, it's safe for sure, but I also believe that it happened because we have a natural tendency, or at least I do, to talk too much, to drive too much, to ask and to not listen and ask enough. And I agree with that too.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It takes skill to be able to balance how you contribute with drawing the person out. 100%. I'm not saying it doesn't require skill. It does require great skill. But what I'm saying is what the ICF should be certifying is a person's ability to skillfully share, to skillfully role play, to skillfully teach strategy, combined with listening and eliciting and all of those things. Like there's a way to measure the skillfulness of a person doing that, and a way to measure the lack of skill. So instead of saying, no, never do it, that's not the right answer. The answer is, yes, you're going to share. No, you can't talk the whole time. You have to find a skillful way to share in a way that is the most beneficial for the client, most empowering to the client. That's all I'm saying. You can go and listen to an amazing jazz performer and go, wow, that was skill. You can go and listen to a person who picks up a saxophone for the first time and just starts blowing in the thing and going, dang, that hurts my ears, right? So it's like there's a wide range of skill. If we're a certifying body, let's measure and talk about and assess the real skills of the craft. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, cool. All right, let's have Chris back on so we can hear more of what our audience is saying about what the market is asking and the gap between that.
I hope we answered the question about health. I think as far as health coaching goes, the key is like you always want to find a way to role play, real play, if you can, conversations. And if you get a person totally tuned in on getting their environment on board with their pursuit of health, you will help them get there the best way.
Okay, we got a lot more questions.
Go for it. Yeah.
We do. We've got two. Yeah, good stuff. We've got two more really good questions. And again, so many great comments in chat. So thank you everyone for participating.
Yay, participate.
Yeah, it's fabulous. We have our next question says, I've been coaching as an external coach in a large organization. They coach too quickly, on the spot, help the frontline leader change mindset, problem solve, no time for building the relationship, getting under the iceberg, etc. Thoughts? Also, coaching is synonymous with discipline in this current environment. More thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Okay, so first of all, I feel your pain. that is a painful scenario. Okay, so you're basically trapped in an industrial world and trying to bring a connected age mind to the industrial world. And that's pretty hard and actually painful. So I feel your pain. There's no easy answer to that question. I just say, there's always some way that you can help a person just begin to express themselves a little bit more. Like maybe it's just one step, but for a person who's trapped in an industrial control environment, that there's one little step. Everyone has a little rebel in them, right? It's like no one really lives happily in a cage. Like human beings are not meant to be in cages. So if you're in this industrial control box, or your client is, and you got to coach them, it's like you just find one little way for them to step forward in expression. The other thing is, even industrial, they say it's like about discipline or whatever you were saying was the measure. There is a thing called people like results. There's always this thing like, in every athletic team and every artistic endeavor, there's like the person that doesn't quite play by the rules, but they're so awesome they get away with it. Like that kind of a person. Like there's always, people love results. So if you are sort of covertly teaching them how to become an amazing, engaging manager in 2 conversations, even though they're supposed to be focused on discipline, if you help them ramp up their engagement, and to them and people around them, that leader becomes like this amazing breath of fresh air that starts getting the best out of people, even if it's not according to the corporate rules. They'll get away with it. You can get away with it if you get results.
Yeah. So the other thing that I would say is corporate settings can put all these like rules on the coach. They can say, okay, coach, like, okay, here's your client, and here are their goals,
yes.
Right? And whether the client, and what I'm hearing coaches do, what David Drake, it's what other high-profile coaches do, is they just kind of go, yeah. Honestly, he like, yeah, and then they do it their way.
Yeah, right.
Which is the inside out.
Yeah.
Like you do what you need to do to get in there and do the work. And then the work is under the iceberg. The work is inside.
Yes. Yeah, 100% right. And you think about this too. I mean, this has been a mantra of human growth forever, which is you start with what people want and then you give them what they need.
That's it.
What they need is not always the same as what they think they want, but you, as a coach, you have to bring some wisdom and like, okay, I totally hear what you want. And what you need to do is this, like as a soccer coach, we have all these players, they want to do these amazing creative things on a soccer field. Like, yep, we're going to do all that. But right now we need to do some wind sprints. So everybody get ready. We're running, and it's like, because you need running and skill, right? So people and the players don't go, woohoo, wind sprints. They're like, oh, wind sprints. Like, yep, wind sprints. Here we go. But then they're like, wow, I've been doing wind sprints for a week and now I'm like rocking it on the field. I feel so good. So this is the flaw in the people have all their own answers. They don't. People don't always know what they need. They don't know. We don't know. I don't know everything I need. So it's just a flawed premise. I don't know what else to say about it. It's a flawed premise. But as a coach, in theory, you've been there, you've been around, you've experienced it to some degree yourself. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying as a coach, you need to be the world's best executive before you coach executives. I'm not saying that. But whatever you're coaching in, you need to have some life experience of that thing. That's the truth. Like whether it's leadership or whatever it is, you have to have personal life experience to coach from. And you have to have some awareness of like, hey, I know, like when I'm talking about role playing, no one says, oh, role play, woohoo. No one ever says that. they're like, oh, really? Like, that's embarrassing. That's scary. I'm like, yep, exactly. It is. And you're never going to become anything without a healthy step outside of your comfort zone. Very rarely do people do that voluntarily, but I'm going to be with you every step of the way. I'm going to be vulnerable too. We're going to do it together. And that's how we're going to become the best versions of ourselves. So it's like, yeah, maybe they deep down know what they need, but initially there might be some resistance to what they need. But as a coach, that's part of being a guide. Like, you have to have the courage to say, hey, this is actually what you need to do. You're going to have to trust me on this one. That's part of being a coach.
Yeah.
And that's not what the ICF would say coaching is. I know that. But when I think back on 21 years ago, when I was sitting in that room with 100 brand new life coaches, we all knew that part of it was the courage to challenge people to do something that they didn't think they could do. Yeah. That's part of the game.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go back to our audience and hear in the chat from what's in the chat box, Chris, of what people are saying in terms of what the market is asking for that's different from what they were trained.
Yeah, fantastic question, and we have a number of answers. I'll just speak the first handful that I see here.
Go for it.
I'll go far for us at this point. Okay, career development, consulting and mentoring, neuroscience, mentoring, mentioned again, and the balance between ICF competencies and consulting and mentoring, and when to shift back and forth. So, what
was the last one, Chris?
How to shift back and forth.
How to shift back and forth. Okay.
Yeah. So this is a question I hear all the time, and I find that I find it perplexing. I understand the question, okay, that you were learned coaching is in this little box, and then somebody wants more than the box, and then, oh, how do I do the right thing in the box, but give them what they need, and I have to change my hats and all this crazy nonsense. The reason I find that perplexing is because I don't believe in the box. I don't believe this little box is coaching. Coaching is anything your player needs from you to become the next best version of themselves, beyond, excluding doing it for them, which everyone knows coaches don't jump on the field and play. The voice coach doesn't jump on the stage and sing the song for their client. Everyone knows that. So everyone knows coaches don't play for you. So, but how do they help you play your best in whatever you're dreaming of? And so my framework of coaching is you do anything needed, anything you've got to give to get them there. So like you said, this is what the true masters of coaching are talking about. We've all realized the ICF's little box is not sustainable. So like you can go in there and say, okay, I'll give you the little box. But then as soon as you start coaching, you chuck the box. Chuck the box. Coaching is anything your heart desires that can contribute to your client accomplishing what they set out to do. So chuck the box. Get rid of the hats. You don't need hats. You don't need to change hats. You don't need to be in the box. Do everything you can, because ultimately what matters as a coach is your clients succeed. Your clients fulfill their dreams. That's what matters, not whether or not you stayed inside the box.
Yeah. Well, I got a poll for the audience.
Okay. Let's see your poll.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. And I meant to make it so you could respond, but I didn't.
Oh, no, that's okay. No worries. All of the above.
So I let everybody say what's going on for them. So it's coming in right now. And so this is a big question, and it came up in some of the questions.
Sure, yeah. It is a big question.
Make sure we got questions.
This is the thing too. I mean, when you learn something from someone and they tell you it is this way, because we grew up in the industrial world, we were programmed to believe that there's a right answer, right? The industrial age was about questions and answers. But the thing is, life is not about questions and answers. Life is about becoming. It's not about questions and answers. So whether or not someone, you know, we were trained to think, oh, I need to find out who has the right answer and do it the right way. But the truth is, that's not life. Life is not a school. It's not about the right answers. Life is a creation. It's becoming. Yeah, it's good to have guidance. Like, would I say there's coaches can do anything? Yes. And don't insult your client. Don't be emotionally abusive with your client. Don't demand that they do it a certain way or you're going to fire them as a client. Like, there's lots of stuff to don't do. Okay. I'm not saying that, but is there, you know, of all the heart-centered, generous ways you can contribute to a human being, pretty much any of those are on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. So whether you give them advice like you should do this, do you go that far? Like
yeah.
You should. Yeah.
In certain situations, it's like, hey, you know, I might not say the word should, but like the soccer players doing wind sprints, it's like, hey, you need to do some wind sprints. You really do, you know, or, you know, if you're coaching a business person and they refuse to do marketing, you're going to like, you know, if you seriously want to have a business, you got to do some marketing, right? Like it's not like a should, like you have to, and I'll help you figure out the best marketing for you, but you can't hide forever. You got to do some marketing. So,
Yep.
you know, that, and it's might be scary and they might not want to, but yeah, they have to. Right. So that's the point. It's like, as a coach, you have to courageously guide the person.
Okay. So we got a number of a number of questions that are out. So for instance, there's two of them. This is in advance.
Okay.
Donna Singer asked, how should a coach respond when a client wants advice or opinion?
Yeah. How?
Yeah. And yeah, I think I know your answer. You would just give it to them.
I would say, yeah, what do you want to know? Right? It's like, I'll share with you anything I know with the understanding that this is my version, you know, this is my perspective, and it may have value for you. Look, there's a thing here that is important. Okay. I don't know if it's a paradox. No, it's not a paradox, but there's a maybe it's a subtlety. Okay. That we have this desire to share our life experiences and our wisdom and what we've learned and all of that, okay? At the same time, part of becoming a great coach is knowing that what worked for you is probably not going to work for another person in an exact replica. It's not like, do it exactly like I did it. That will work for you. Becoming a great coach is actually realizing that you have all kinds of wisdom and you have frameworks and you have strategies, and they're not going to work exactly for the person, but you can share something that will spark their creation. Mm-hmm. Or you can filter your knowledge through your understanding of the human being that you're with and come up with a way that's sort of what you learned, but filtered through what you understand them to need. Like this is the mastery of the craft of coaching. Coaching is not, oh, finally I'll reveal my secrets, do this, 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 and this, and I'll send you a video. Like that, I wouldn't call that great coaching. A lot of people call their coaching program sending out videos. I wouldn't call that great coaching. I would call that like the bare minimum. I might not even call that coaching, but it is a kind of coaching. Sharing what you have done is a way of coaching, but that's like the super lowest level way. Just like only asking questions you could call it coaching, but it's a pretty low level. The higher level is this co-creation, playing with all this, you know, that's the higher level of coaching. So yes, you can share what you've learned and your knowledge and your experience, but do it skillfully.
So there's, as you and I have talked before, there's a boatload of people out there kind of calling themselves coaches and doing kind of group coaching.
Sure. Yeah.
What I'm curious, would you say what they're doing is coaching? Or
well, I just put it through my definition, okay, which is coaching is a personal relationship where you are personally guiding another human being in pursuit of playing better through observation, perceptive observations, and life-changing conversations and experiences. So it's a relationship. So if you don't know a person, if you've got a group of 50 people, I would not call that coaching. You don't know them. You're not observing them. You're just giving them information. I would call that training. That's fine. Training is awesome, right? It's only coaching when it's a relationship, a two-way relationship. And I also assert that it's only coaching if you're observing them and giving them feedback about what you see. That's the definition of coaching. So if you're not observing them and giving them personal feedback, then I would not call that coaching.
Okay, so Alison Porter asked the question, how do we manage the slippery slope when we become overly confident of our own expertise and its ability to help?
Yeah, it's a good question. But it's actually not that complicated. You just look at your clients. If your clients are thriving and pursuing their dreams joyfully and accomplishing them and loving it and loving you, then whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Yeah. If you're super confident in your expertise and your clients come on like, hey, I know what I'm doing, just shut up, listen to me, I got you, just do this. If you find them not really liking that too much, wanting to quit, whatever, then you're like, that's not working so good. Maybe I need to try something else. Like, in my mind, the ultimate success as a coach is, are your players thriving?
Yeah.
That's it. If your players are thriving, whatever you're doing, it's good. It's good for them.
So for me, the only way how I might answer that question is when I feel like me or my client is trying to shortcut their own introspection. Because I think that sometimes clients want an easy answer, one that doesn't allow a lot of digging around into their soul.
Sure.
And that can feel good to them, and it can frankly feel good to me if I'm given like you really should. Like I tend to lean away from like you shoulds, although. But yeah, I think for that's how I would personally answer that question of what the slippery slope is when it feels like they're not. I am either like I'm robbing. That's my language. The client from the opportunity to really self-examine what they want.
An awesome point, Alison. It is an awesome point. And that's going to be usually an out of comfort zone step. Okay. But look, coaches have to evolve, each as a human in the craft. The way I coached 21 years ago is not the way I coach today, right? I mean, the first 5 years of coaching, I was just all over the place, right? I was trying everything, and few of my clients succeeded. Many of them didn't, but I just kept getting more because I'm super enthusiastic and good at selling coaching, right? So it's like I had to keep learning, like what's really working. And I think the key, what you're saying, Alison, is beautiful. And to answer the person's question, because it is a beautiful question, is you have to be really brutally honest with yourself. Is what I just did in that session really the best I can do? Right? Is it really the best for my client? And if you keep asking that question, you're going to end up on Alison's path. You're going to be like, you know what? I could have dug a little deeper. Yeah. I could have explored a little more fully. I could have revealed my own vulnerability, something, right? So, and that's the thing I think that what it really comes down to. And that pursuit of, am I really doing the best? And am I really helping that person grow? Am I really helping them become? If you have those questions as your guiding light, you will keep growing and you will keep moving into a new path that's way beyond just pumping your expertise on people.
Yeah.
Because the truth is,
I
it
think
won't work well in the long term, just pumping your advice. It won't. It just won't. The universe doesn't work like that. Humans don't grow that way. So it won't work. You'll find out this isn't quite working. Okay, I've got to evolve. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please go ahead.
No. Yeah, I think that I'm speaking for myself. I could definitely benefit from doing more reflection. Like the way when, like, it's oftentimes more in reflection than in the moment that I realize
yes, 100%.
that I just robbed that person from the opportunity to explore themselves. It's like there's this energetic reversal I find that happens when, like, I'm asking all these questions and they're really exploring themselves and they're really like in this zone. And if I do something like well, have you considered this? It like energetically, it just shuts down.
It could sometimes, sure.
So
But
anyway,
other times, because here's the other thing, I trust coaching, okay? And I know when I get in the zone as a coach, a lot of the stuff I say, it doesn't come from me. It's like coming from some place, like some universal mind or some like something just comes through. It just comes flying out of my mouth. And then often my client is like, whoa, and in a way it is like it shuts down, but it shuts down almost like to go in, and it plants this amazing seed that maybe doesn't even start to grow in that conversation, but then starts to grow in the future, right? You don't know. I mean, the human connection, this is the connected age. Social media, social platforms, they're only reflecting the truth of our humanity, which is we're all connected. We always have been from the beginning of human time, but now it's just also on the computer. And when two human beings are deeply connected in this relationship, either one could channel some amazing wisdom that could plant a seed that changes a person's life forever. So I'm always just like trusting that. But I love what you said. I had a mentor coach early in my career who said, Dave, if you hang up a phone, if you're coaching on the phone, you hang up the phone, and then 2 minutes later, you're like, oh, dang, I missed a clue, or I could have asked this, or I skipped over something or whatever. And her counsel to me was, as soon as you have 5 free minutes, you pick up the phone and you call them. And you say, hey, I skipped over this. Hey, I should have said this. Hey, I meant to do this. It's totally embarrassing when you're a professional in some ways to say, hey, I skipped over something you said. I wanted to just let you know about it or ask you about it or whatever. And what happens is you start to teach yourself to trust these inklings, because if you actually have the courage to do it after, you start having the courage to do it in the moment. So
it's like training courage.
Yeah, training courage. And it's like trusting yourself is essential to becoming a great coach, but it's a co-creation. It's like always with what's going to best help the other person. And, sometimes you really have a knowing what they need or what could help them. Sometimes you don't know. You just have an inkling. This is life. Life is complex. So it's like, but when we play, this is what I do know. Whatever the person you're coaching is trying to become, if you jump in and play with them, something good will happen. You don't know what it's going to be always, but something good. So it's like, I trust playing with, as opposed to teaching about. Yeah.
I love that. So we have a question from an attendee about when it comes to if someone comes to you for private life coaching, how do you observe them in their life?
It's a great question. It's such a great question. I love it. It's such a great question. Okay, so yes, I love it. Okay, so there's stages. Okay, there's stages of this answer. The first And foremost way is you observe them by playing with them when you're with them. Okay, so rather than just talking about what they want to talk about, almost every human endeavor is going to involve conversations that they want or need to have with someone else, and you practice those and you observe them while you're in that role play. Okay, so the first way you observe is by playing with them and observing them in the moment. Okay, the next step is, like if you're coaching, let's say you're a voice coach, okay, and you're coaching someone to sing better. Well, the first thing you're going to do is have them sing for you, and you're going to observe them in singing. So this is the same idea. You're going to have them talk with you and observe how they come across, and not only what they say, but their energy and all their body language, if you're looking at them, all that stuff, okay? Then, how do you observe a singer? Well, you encourage them to give a performance. And you either go and watch the performance or you get a recording of the performance. Like if it's a singer, right? Go sing at the open mic, one song, and have your friend record it on your phone and send me the recording. So if it was a singer, right? So in life, like, you can ask, if they're on any social media, if they're going to record a little video of something they want to share, or if they're super courageous, they're like, okay, I need to talk to my best friend. I'm going to ask my friend if I can record the conversation, even though that feels weird. There's so many possible ways now that we can begin to observe. With leaders, it's much easier because, leaders are leading meetings all the time. And so you can ask your leader to record them leading the meeting, or you can watch it on a Zoom screen, watch them lead the meeting. So there's ways that you look for the performance aspect. So for an example, you look for the performance aspect. So when life is a performance art, okay, here's the big thing. So let's say this is an example. So if I'm coaching a business person, which I do all the time, what's something that happens all the time in business? You're somewhere and the person says, what do you do? Now the person I'm coaching, they have a choice. They can either approach that question with an answer, like, oh, I will answer your question. Or they can say, this question is an invitation to perform. And now, as a performer, I'm going to co-create a provocative experience with this person who just asked me the question. And so you're like, all right, I'm going to perform. I'm going to create a provocative experience with them. I'm going to share something provocative. I'm going to ask them to engage with me in some provocative way because I want to create a provocative experience with
Dave,
people.
so how do you do that? Would you do that with me now?
Okay, sure.
So Dave, what do you do?
What I do is I help people pursue their dreams by unleashing their hidden superpowers. Now, let me tell you something that you might not know, because I've been a life coach for 21 years. And one thing I know about human beings is that every human being has hidden superpowers. They have amazing power. They don't even know what it is. They don't know how to use it. It's hidden in shadows. So what I do is, through a coaching process that I've developed, is I evoke that superpower.
Holy cow. Okay? How do you do that?
This is a very good question. I cannot tell you, but I can only show you. So if you are curious about this, I would love to set up a little conversation where we can dive in to it, complimentary, half an hour, and we'll talk about what your big dream is, and I'll start the process of revealing your superpowers, and then we'll see if you like it. What do you think?
Awesome. I love
so
that.
That would be an example. Like, I just go right for it. Like, I don't mess around. I don't have time, right?
That was very inviting. So I'm curious, what is so lots of people ask you what you do and you give this great invitational response.
Sure.
What's the most unusual way you've ever gotten a client?
The most unusual way I've ever gotten a client is standing in line at a fast food restaurant. And I was standing in line at a fast food restaurant, and I used to coach for Seton Hall University, and I had my soccer coach attire on, and the person said, "Oh, you're a soccer coach?" And I said, "Yeah, and I'm a life coach too." And they're like, really? You're a life coach too? I said, yeah. And I said some version of what I just said to you. And they were like, their mouth just dropped. And so, I'll tell you what I used to say. Okay. This would be funny. So the way I answered that question 15, 20 years ago is I would say, I coach self-employed professionals who are working for a lunatic.
That's very clear. I love that.
And then the guy just busted out laughing. He was like, oh my God, I'm a crazy lunatic. My wife is telling me this all the time. Can you seriously help me stop working for a lunatic? And I'm like, I totally can. I'm so awesome at helping self-employed people stop working for a lunatic. Let's set up a conversation. And we just set up phone numbers and he hired me.
Yeah. So what I love about this, and this gets to some questions, is and I have a little bit of a rant about
Okay.
it. And it's all about, we had questions about, God, I felt so sad when I heard this question. It was, can a coach make a livable wage coaching? That made me so sad.
That is sad.
I'm feeling it right now. And yes is the answer. Totally yes. And lots of people do. And in fact, Chris Hardy wrote a great blog, and I'm just realizing it probably had my name on it, but she wrote a great blog that landed just today about how to price coaching and how different coaches price their coaching packages with real details. And yes, lots of coaches make a living coaching. If you want to get that, you can go to learninginaction.com, look at the blog, and you can see like lots of what
Sure.
Chris, do you remember, will you come on in a second? Will you remember what some of those coaches are charging for what was it like?
It's all over the map.
It was all over the map. It was like 15,000 for 6 months. What do you?
Exactly. It was kind of all over the map. Some were 10 to 15 to 20 and 30,000 for a 6 month period. So
sure,
wide range.
Sure. But Alison, let's talk about this for a moment. First, I want to cycle back to your question. So we were talking about how do I help a person answer the question, what do you do? So, and then you asked me to just do it with you, but that's what I do. I just do it with them. And then I observe. And what happens to most people when they're talking about what they do is they freeze. And then they go into some easy answer. And then they don't go for the invitation. When they're supposed to invite, their throat tightens up and they just can't ask. And they're like, oh, so nice to meet you too. Tell me what you do, right? So they freeze, okay? And this goes to question number 2 about the money. Anytime you go in business, there's the skills that you need to develop, but there's also the freedom within your body. Skills, but ultimately you need what I would call an enlightened business coach who's going to play with you and help you understand every little place you get stuck and feel your way through it, play your way through it, and master both the how to do it well, the strategy of how to do it, but also the inner freedom within your body. You need to say and do those things. You can't read that in a blog. It requires another human being with you to say, hey, when you were trying to ask me to set up a meeting, I noticed you hesitate. I noticed you had a cough. What's going on in your body? Let's explore and get you the ability to play with the fear that's in your body. Human beings, we are all swimming in fear. And telling a human being to be fearless is as silly as telling a fish to be waterless. It is not possible. We are born with fear. We learn fear, we experience fear. So the idea is not to be fearless. The idea is to learn how to play with the fear.
Yeah,
and
I realize
the coaching. That's the piece you really have to, you need another human being with you to help you figure that out. And that's that's the deep coaching you were talking about.
Yeah. And I realized I did this little tangent because these things are so tied in my mind.
Sure.
Is that I love the way you articulated to that person like who you were as a coach, because he could identify himself with it so clearly.
Yes.
And my gripe is that most coaches define themselves as working with anyone on the planet, and because they define themselves as like working with anyone on the planet, no one can see themselves in that description.
Sure.
And because our descriptions are so vague, people don't know how to refer us to. I mean, it's a word of mouth business. Almost all coaching is a word of mouth business. And then no one knows how to refer us. No one knows how to refer us. Then we have a hard time making a living coaching.
That's right.
So
these are all true.
Put all those together.
Yeah, it's true, Alison. And also, how do you get there? Like, how do you go from vague to clear? You practice, right? Someone practices with you and says, hey, that was pretty clear. No, I still am confused. Let's try it again. And you play with them. You keep asking the question. So what do you do? And let them keep practicing with you until clarity occurs.
Yeah.
It happens through practice. But that's the thing. We grew up in the industrial age which said, find the guru with the right answer. The teacher has the answer. Find the teacher, get the answer, do it. And that is a totally flawed model. It doesn't work 99% of the time. But what does work is play and practice and someone observing you and guiding you in becoming who you want to become. That's why coaching has the potential to be the coolest thing ever invented. And that's why I'm here with you right now. Yeah.
So we are in our last few minutes here. I know that time went crazy fast, believe it or not. Is there anything that you would like to make sure you say about this topic before we begin our close?
Yeah, I mean, I think just going back to the original premise, again, like I said, the first day the ICF was invented, we had this vision that life coaching was going to be the most profound form of human relating ever invented, and that everyone in the world was going to want one of these life coaches, right? So one of us life coaches. So I just say, stay true to that vision. Our time is coming. The more that the world and human beings become performance artists rather than workers completing tasks, the more they're going to yearn for a great coach. So our time is coming.
Yeah. So I so appreciate, Dave, how you are empowering us as coaches, empowering us to find the truest expression of ourselves.
Yes.
And have it show up. And I really feel that you're walking your talk and helping us to do the same. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
So just closing here, I referred to, we have a blog that comes out every Friday on topics like how to price your coaching. It's give it all away. And so if you're interested in receiving the blog and you don't, you can subscribe to a link that's in the chat box now. If you're interested in training, we do emotional intelligence training around the EQ profile, an instrument that helps you understand your internal experience under stress and how you get in your own way, particularly in conflict. So a little bit of information on that if you're curious. That's in a link to that is in the chat box. And if Dave has gotten you curious about what it means to play life, and how you develop business simply brilliantly, you can go to CoachVille.com. There's a link to that in the chat. And finally, if this was an interesting topic for you today, we're going to be exploring it in even more detail on July 31st for our next Podinar, where we talk about unlearning coaching, really going item by item and talking about challenging what I'm calling the rules of coaching to do more of what we love. So
sweet.
That's in the chat box too.
Can I just add one little thing, Alison, that on the CoachVille website, free, just on our public website, I have example audios of me doing this kind of role play with people that you can listen to and hear how it goes and the transformation that happens. So it's just on our free CoachVille on our free CoachVille blog. You can find it there.
Great. Perfect. So, hey, if you would, tell us how we did today. We love
feedback.
We love feedback.
Feedback is the breakfast of champions.
You can rate us 1 through 10, and then if there's any chat at all, anything you want to make sure we know, put it in the chat box. We would love to hear that. And finally, thank you so much, Coach Dave Buck.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Such a joy to be with you and
Sweet.
hear your enthusiasm, your take on this, and encouraging us to play full out. And it was just a joy.
Our time is coming.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alison. Thanks for hosting. You're brilliant. You're a brilliant host. Keep doing this.
Thank you. Well, I'm playing. I'm playing with it. I'm
this
hoping
is your
to perform
performance
better.
art. You are a performing artist. Well done.
And thank you, Chris Hardy, for moderating. Thank you, Corey Weichel, for being in the background. And thank all of you so much for joining us. Coach well, coach often, play out. Bye-bye.